Good evening, bonsoir. Bienvenue à la séance ordinaire ou extraordinaire le 4 décembre. Welcome to the special public meeting on December 14th. Ms. Parker, do we have any items to be added or removed?
There are no items to be added or removed.
Okay. Est-ce que nous avons des déclarations conflit d'intérêts?
Aucun conflit d'intérêt déclaré.
Parfait. On va aller section des finances. Budget de fonds, fonctionnement général. General Operating Fund Budget. Madame Gauvin.
Me again. It's my month. Just trying to. All right. Bonjour, good evening. Ce soir, nous continuons le processus budgétaire 2024 qu'on a entamé publiquement depuis plusieurs semaines maintenant. As a reminder, the city has 4 types of budget: the general operating budget, the utility operating budget, the general capital budget, and the utility capital budget. Each of them have different sections. So the general fund, anything that we talk when we have the general, has the general government services, protective services, transportation, environmental health, environmental development, recreation and cultural, as well as fiscal. Versus when we talk about the utility, we only talk about the water and sewer and its associated fiscal costs. When we go on the operational side, we go to the expenses that are annual, so salary, maintenance, and those types of things, versus on the other side is for the acquisition or replacement of capital tangible assets, which is the tangible because you can physically touch them over a certain threshold, versus intangible where you wouldn't be able to touch the assets. So those examples incur for road rebuilds or equipment purchases for vehicles and those types of expenses. When we talk about the general fund, a reminder that your property taxes pay that part. So you cannot use property taxes to pay for your utility fund, and you cannot use your revenue from what you collect from the invoices from water and sewer billing to pay for roads or snow removal or that type of stuff that's in the general fund. So these are really clarifications when we say that I'm paying for the tax rate in Bathurst, but I don't get water and sewer, where you're not getting billed for that either if you're not for those services at all. So these are the different scopes of it. So after all said and done, the city has the 4 budgets that we have there for reference. If anybody from the public wants to rewatch the viewings to have a full story, because obviously I'm not going to redo the full presentations that were done. I think 3 hours per night is long enough. So if they want to do that at their own time, they can view the October 11th meeting as well as the October 30th meeting for the 3 last budgets of the row. But tonight we are picking up where we left off from the October 30th meeting, which was the first draft of the general operating fund. But at that time we were missing information. So we received that information tonight, in between those times, and now we are ready to push the process further. We have a proposed balanced budget with proposed tax rates tonight. So let's get it going. So the starting point on October 30th, we discussed at that time that we were missing information. And when we left off, we were at a deficit of 315,000, sorry. And the shared services in that column on the far side, that gets redistributed amongst all of the subunits. But that's where we left off. But we were missing information, and that's why the information that we were missing was really material to be able to come up with a tax rate that wasn't exorbitant, because some are very, very material in this presentation. So let's start with the first information that we were missing. For the Regional Service Commission, their budget was adopted on November 22nd. And within this budget, the Regional Service Support Fund, which you remember is a funding that is granted to the RSCs, they still have the distributed amount of 508 between all the members. They distributed the additional funding that they have received for 52,000, and the balance of the amount for 158 will be carried over to 2025. So they can't do that if they don't have enough initiatives in 2024. It was granted last minute, so they understand that not all the amount was going to be distributed. As for the shared recreational installations, the proposed modified formula for the aquatic center was tabled within the RSC budget, and the existing formula will remain in place for now for the installations. So the 2024 adopted budget, this is what it looks like when we present it versus what it is now. You can see that all the amounts that changed in the variances, with the exception of regional transportation, are all associated to the 52,000 that was distributed between all the members. This is our share of it. So these are the variances for the city of Bathurst. In regional transportation, the small increase that's there is because at the time that we presented the budget, we had taken into consideration that Belgium was going to pay for capital costs of the vehicles. This has been only divided between Bathurst and Belbé in this budget. So this is what's been adopted for 2024 fees for direct services. When we look at the shared recreational installation, as we said, the aquatic center formula itself inside the RSC budget will remain the same, and this within this table represents a decrease in revenue of 45,000 from our initial projections that we had made. However, Belbé has included in their budget the mutually agree the abolishment of the distance factor between both communities in the cost-sharing formula for all infrastructures. So this provides an additional amount of $79,974 for the Casey Irving and the Aquatic Center combined. So you can see that, yes, we have a decrease, but with the increase from Belbé from 79,000, it nets to a total increase of 34,000 additional revenue compared to what we had shown on October 30th. For us, taking away the distance factor and the same mutual agreement is an increase of 4,057 for the publiques. For the grants, when we had discussed, Council had recommended having a total amount of 120,000 for the old Bathurst city limits, which was the same as was before, plus a 45,000 for North Tedegush Recreational Center. So this is now incorporated. I'll show the full list after. But in this draft budget, it totals 120 plus a 45. And we pushed to the tourism accommodation levy, the request from the hospitality days, the Club ATV Chaleur, and Groupe Action. Those will be reconsidered in 2024 itself once the tourism accommodation levy is considered. So the full list that's included right now is the usual 2 BHS bursaries, 2 ESN bursaries, the 2 medical scholarships, Sistema, the Old Post Office, the Bathurst Heritage Trust Commission, the Victoria Enhancement Committee, and the North Tedegush Recreational Center. And that leaves the balance for the year of 55,600, which would be at the next round of requests to be analyzed by the committee. So altogether, it's 165. Now, the other section we were waiting for was for the police services. So when we received the amounts from the RCMP, there was an increase of 3% overall, which would have made 756,000. If we remain with the RCMP, that's an increase of 22,000 compared to 2023. This being said, although the city has not received an official letter for the transfer to Bathurst Police Force, confirmation was received that budget could reflect a transition date of April 1st. So accordingly, the budget was divided between 3 months with the RCMP and 9 months with the Bathurst Police Force.
Madame Gauvin, do you mind taking a question?
No, not all.
All right. Wrong mouse. Conseiller Leblanc.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Ma question était pour revenir sur les grants tout à l'heure. L'autre jour, il y a une organisation locale, une nouvelle, qui disait qu'on avait réduit le budget des grants de 193 000 à 120 000. Je voulais juste clarifier aujourd'hui, puis je veux que tu me le confirmes, évidemment. Tu es la madame des chiffres. C'est le même budget que l'année passée.
Le budget l'année dernière était 204 000.
Qu'on a dépensé, mais notre budget, parce que je suis sur le comité, on avait juste 125.
Mon Dieu, excusez. Le budget l'an dernier, vraiment budgété, était 204 000, mais il y avait vraiment des montants qui avaient déjà été distribués dans l'exercice budgétaire qu'on disait. Donc, il restait une balance, je ne suis pas certaine, 125 qui restait au début de l'année, donc 125 pour débuter l'année.
C'est ça qu'on a remis
C'est ça.
pour cette année. C'est pour garder le même budget qu'on avait l'année passée. Donc, cette année, si on prend le 45 000 qu'on donne, qui va être par-dessus le 120, ces choses-là, il y a des chances qu'on finisse l'année aux alentours du même que l'année dernière.
Typiquement, les budgets si on recule 2 ans passés, on a augmenté exceptionnellement les 2 dernières années. Là, je me rappelle plus, c'était 2021, 2022. Mais avant, c'était entre 100 000 et 120 000 pour toute l'année.
Puis le budget donc moi je parle que le comité donne, en 2021 et les années d'avant, si ma mémoire est bonne, c'était 30 000, je pense, c'est ça que vous aviez comme grant. Ça fait que vraiment, si on voudrait être réaliste, on dirait qu'on a augmenté d'au-delà de 100 000 les grants.
Oui, bien le montant discrétionnaire, au début, quand vous allez discuter, ça va être 55 600.
Qui va rester.
30 000.
Qui va rester.
Oui, c'est ça.
OK.
Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. To the Treasurer.
Yeah.
The budget for the Art Society was the last couple of years at 5. And does that come out of the 55 now and not out of this?
From the Art Society?
Yeah.
I don't have that in my list.
Well, it was for the last 2 years.
Did
5,000.
they come?
Oh,
Now, they only came last year when we had the committee deal with the leftover monies. I think it's 55, you said that's still there?
The 50, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's still amounts left
After
to
all
be
these.
distributed.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can still come, it's just it's going to go through the committee when it
Yeah.
gets
Yeah,
requested.
that's what it did
Yes.
last year. That's
yeah, the request comes to the committee
Yeah.
as well.
And the Legion as well?
The Legion we already gave. We just gave to the Legion.
You just did, okay, so that's not
Yeah.
out of here, and not out of the 55.
No,
So you'll be striking up the committee again, and
Yep.
we'll go from there?
actually, Ms. Parker's going to be calling a committee meeting soon.
Thank you, merci.
It's okay.
All right, merci.
So for the police, when we look at the differences in cost, so let's say we stay status quo and remains with the RCMP, with the increase of 3%, the total amount is 756,000, versus if we only consider 3 months, it's 189,000. So we have savings with the RCMP of 567. But of course, the Bathurst Police Force will have added expenses to be able to cover that territory. So we added two new police officers for close to 160,000. We need 1 vehicle plus the equipment to go inside that vehicle for a total of 90,000. And then we have the startup cost of 50,000. So to have the additional amounts is close to 300, so a total net saving of 267,000 for the Bathurst Police Force to do it instead. Obviously the vehicle, once bought, we have a rotation of every 3 years, so and the equipment that's inside gets transferred from one vehicle to another, so it's a transfer of the vehicle. So yes, the startup costs are one amount, but then we can continue into that replacement. So although we're not talking about the capital budgets here, because of this new budget, the new vehicle would be added to the capital budget once shown for resolution. Now, the little tidbits, those are the last of the changes. So since last time, we tweaked. As we go forward, we always have new information coming in, so if we have time to put it in, we do. So the fire capital lease, which is, they have a capital lease for the St. Anne Fire Station. We had budgeted $90,500. The true amount is $104,000. And then on the, during the year for continuous improvement, so during the year, we have opportunities to have continuous improvement, which is typically have no budget assigned. So these go from opportunities for new initiatives, new mandated studies by external parties. So to be able to be ready to turn around real quickly, we've added an amount of 50,000 because we have the available amount there now. Then the third one is for a sound system for council chambers, which is the room which we are now. Although not identified in the first draft due to the financial availability, the council chamber sound system has become obsolete, which we see Madam Mayor playing with the buttons quite a bit. With council having a higher public reach with online meeting broadcast, a new system would enhance the quality. A new system would also allow for video conferencing, and members of council or other participants would have the ability to connect remotely to meetings. So we put a budget of $30,000 for that one. Finally, the last item is for roads. Let's keep the best for last. The initial budget for asphalt that we presented was $88,000, and we had discussed for an additional increase of $50,000, but we had money available, so we upped it by another $71,000 for a total asphalt budget of $209,751. So we put it where we could.
That is such good news.
Yeah, it is.
Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you to the treasurer.
Yes.
Probably maybe Mr. Abernathy too. Last week at the Union of Municipalities, the representative from Transportation said that they would still be taking care of all the roads in the new parts of our city. That would be the new wards, that they would take care of them. And I was approached by a gentleman last week who said that he'd like to see some work done on rough waters, and I went for a drive there. It's pretty bad. But outside of the city limits, are we going to get any money? Because they stopped us from getting any money for in the city, original areas, and now they said that the outlying areas they would take care of. So can we tap into any monies for the outlying that are now within the city boundaries for extra pave?
Short answer, no, and the reason is very simple. When we get to the section on tax rates, each subunit is paying for the services that they receive. So their tax rate covers, for example, this asphalt is not covered by their tax rate. It's only covered by the old city limits tax rates. So we're not charging Big River or Tedegush for that asphalt. We're only charging the tax rate. So for us to do paving in their section, we would have to increase their tax rate to cover the paving for their section.
Well, what about the province doing paving in their section? Because they said that they
We'll
were
go
still
to Mr.
responsible.
Abernathy. If you,
Yeah.
Mr. Abernathy would be best bet.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I can confirm the DTI does have a capital works outlook over the next few years that's available online. I don't have the link with me, but I can send it to you. They have identified for 2025 a section of Vanier Boulevard from the city limits to the airport. So there is a section there that's going to be done. I didn't see any other sections slated to be done. However, we had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, and I did identify Rough Waters Drive, Upper Miramichi Avenue, all these areas for consideration. And the best they could tell me was that that section of Vanier Boulevard is going to be completed.
It would be really great if we can get some monies now that they are still taking ownership of those roads. You know.
They are actually completing all the work. We're not involved whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Financially either.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
So this completes all the new information. So now that we have, we weren't waiting for that many information, but they were quite material. So now we're ready to talk tax rate. So to determine the tax rates, we have to consider just a reminder for the municipal reform. So before the municipal reform, a reminder that both local districts that joined Bathurst, the two subunits, would only pay for their direct cost, and all shared services were paid by the old City Bathurst limits. After the municipal reform, both local districts joining Bathurst still pay for their direct costs, as does Bathurst City, but both new local districts that joined now paid their share of the shared services based on their assessment base. So there is a transition period. They don't go from 0 to 100 all at once, and during the transition committee, they decided to go with the 6th year, so this year is year 2. So all that you see is with the number 5 in mind, because last year was the 6th. So every year, the local districts will catch up to a common rate where they can fully pay their full share of shared services. So when you look at the terminology, ultimately you end up with 3 different tax rates with 3 different property assessment value. So to be able to demonstrate all of this, we end up with 3 different warrants or 4 when you consider the shared services. So when we distribute all non-tax revenues and expenses and unconditional grant, that's the community funding grant, the total required warrant for 2024 budget is $26,335,000. That's between all subunits as well as the shared services. To be able to determine the tax rate and warrant for each subunits, the shared services are distributed amongst all 3, and the new warrant now shows. So now we take away all the shared column and we put it according to the distribution that we're required to do. So it's the same warrant for $26,335,000, but it's spread accordingly to what everybody should pay as a total. But now you see in red is marked without. So currently these are the numbers if we did not have that transition period, because we have to take a detour before we can get to the end result. So if we continue with without the transition period, as it illustrates right now, the new tax rate for each of Ward 2 subunit would increase, and the rate for Ward 1, which is the Old City Bathurst limits, would decrease. So for North Tedigush, the rate would increase by 33.38 cents. And for Bathurst, Big River, and the other LD, it would increase by 47.10 cents. For the Old Bathurst, the rate would decrease by 5 cents, 0.28. The municipal reform now requires for all subunits to pay for all day shared services. However, as you can see, that big of a jump all at once would absolutely not be feasible. So this is why the transition period. So what we did is we took the period allotted, so all the required rate to cover shared services, and we divided it by 5 because that's how many years are left. So when you go with the current rate and the required rate to cover the shared services, which we divided by 5, this makes the new rate for the transition, which would be 86 cents and 52. I can go right here. So the recommended rates for Bathurst, we would stay with the 1.775 because right now we're not at the threshold where they're covering enough with the local districts to be able to decrease. So maybe at one point we will, because as you can see through the transition, it kind of pivots in the other way. But for right now, we're kind of on that threshold where we still have to cover for their transition period. So for Bathurst, it would remain at 1.775. North Tedigush, the rate would be 86.52, and Bathurst Big River recommended 84.20.
Councillor Willie
This
has
is
a
a
question.
discussion, but I'll leave
There
that
you
here.
go.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So that means that within the 5 years, we could be looking at lowering our taxes if things still balance.
So the options become available to council at that point. So
Okay.
when you have the option, yes, absolutely. If it tilts and inflation and everything remains the same,
Yeah.
yes, we could decrease. Or we could invest in roads or other new things depending on what it is, but that's when it becomes a bit more fun because then you have options of what you want to do with it that gives back.
Okay, thank you.
Right. No other question?
That's it?
That's it?
Okay. Kind of surprised. See, okay, I won't argue. So if this is all fine, the next step for the budgets will be to come for resolutions for the full 4 budgets, because now they would be all ready to prep the resolutions and talk about the real submissions to the province.
So that will be on the 18th of December, because next week's a committee of a whole. Okay, perfect. All right, still no questions. We're good to go. Okay. Well, no tax increase, which is really good. I mean, I've seen other municipalities that had to increase, so we're very fortunate on that within the city limits. So we will be going to municipal bylaws. So 4.1, second reading of proposed bylaw 2024-01 entitled Bylaw Respecting Water and Sewer Services and Charges in the City of Bathurst. So Ms. Parker's going to read it. I'll need someone to move and a seconder, and then we'll do the discussion. Ms. Parker.
That bylaw 2024-01 entitled A Bylaw Respecting Water and Sewer Services and Charges in the City of Bathurst be read for the second time by title.
Perfect. May I have a mover? Councillor Hondas, seconder, Councillor Scary. All right, now we were going to go to questions, information. Madame Gauvin is available to answer any questions you may have. Oh, you're going to do your presentation first? Perfect, even better. All right. Councillor Knowles, I know you're lit up, but I'll go to you as soon as it's done. Okay.
So really, it's not that long. It's simply that during the last council meeting, there were 3 questions that were asked. So we thought that we'd provide you with the information to be able to answer that real quickly. So the first question that was asked was how many accounts are in collections or amounts due over 6 months and the associated total amount. So we have 273 accounts in arrears over 6 months, which total $836,000. To get a true handle of accounts receivable, time needs to be made available to the utilities clerk as well as public works staff who would process the shut-off on all accounts remaining unpaid after 2 weeks. The second question that was asked was, what are the incremental expenses and required increases if the bylaw remains metered on all accounts? So this table shows what is required to start working toward bringing the meter account up to date. As you can see, there's a total of $283,000, and currently there's a single utility clerk invoicing on average 1,500 accounts per month and managing the total 4,556 accounts, including the elite calls and all the property transfers that we mentioned during this study. In order to address the pending issues, we would need 1 additional utility clerk, and the same goes for the maintenance man, in the sense that the current public works staff distribute as much as they can on the workload associated to the meters between them, and to truly address the number of repairs and requests for checkup meters, and maintenance man dedicated solely to this would be required. So this would address 200 meters per year, as you can see with 100,000. However, since there are over 400 meters and the true working life of a meter is 10 years, the number of rotating per year should be 400. So, sorry, 4,000 meters divided by 10, it should be 400 per year to have a true rotation of the meters. If we continue to invoice on a metered system, the amount to be covered by user fee, including these incremental costs, so on the right, would be $7.3 million, and without any increase, the projected revenue is $6.7. So that leaves a shortfall of 605, which the basic increase would mean 9%. But then when we have these types of increases, we have seen the trend where it decreases. So we have to have a consumption buffer in there of 4.5, which makes the 13.5%. On a related note, a similar sized municipality has gone with completely hands-off approach and pay over $300,000 per year for their meter operations and maintenance, but they have live real-time readings, which helps catch leaks as they happen. The investment to go on a system like that would be roughly $1.5 million, and with new replacement meters would still cost $600 plus on top of the $300,000 operating cost. The system requires periodic upgrades. And the last question was, could we redistribute the 10% rebate offered to all seniors to low-income household homeowners instead of automatically over 65 years of age? And if so, what would the impact be? So we pulled out, and mind you, this is based on Statistics Canada extrapolation. So we don't know exactly the amount until we have a full year when we have these types of rebates. So we went with the percentages of Statistics Canada. So if you go with a range of 35,000 and under, 28% of households are within that range. And when we apply the 10% discounts on the single units, it would mean 44,000 on top of the 80,000 from the guaranteed income supplement. If you go 40,000 and under, the percentage according to Statistics Canada is 34%, which would mean 62,000 plus the 80,000 guaranteed income supplement. And the percentage we had for 65 years and over was 31.2%, which was 54,000 plus the 80% GIS. So if the target range for a rebate is low income, then both current default discounts could be abolished. So the 10% for 65 and over, and 5% if paid fully before 28%, before the February 28th, And once it stabilizes, other rebates could be introduced if wished by council. So we could stabilize the low-income accounts and then later on transition into something bigger.
So you're saying like next year, so if it was to go through, then in next year's budget, we can review it, and we'll have better data, because, I mean, we're estimating here.
Normally, you want to have a range of 2 or 3 years just to be able to have, because by the time you onboard everybody, some people may not be aware of it. So all the campaigns and everything to onboard everybody and have a true amount would be 2 to 3 years, most likely. And then you see where you are and what's the cost. That's it.
We have a question from Councillor LeBlanc.
Merci, Madame la mairesse, pour Sonia. Madame Gauvin, je regardais dans votre présentation qui est disparue. Si on va se dire que les chiffres sont relativement précis pour l'instant, parce qu'on ne le sait pas. Si on veut aider les personnes qui en ont le plus besoin, les 40 000 $ et moins, okay, ça augmenterait seulement notre dépense de 8 000 par année.
Contrairement
À 54, ça nous coûterait 62
oui,
au lieu de ça. Pourquoi on abolirait le 5 comme ça pour juste 8 000 $? Parce que j'assume qu'il y a une méchante différence de plus.
Ben, tout simplement parce que on déplace le 10 d'endroit, parce qu'il ne faut pas oublier que le prend 5 ans, je vais l'arrondir à 63 000, divisé par le nombre de propriétés qu'il y a. On n'est pas sûr, il faudrait pas. On est comme au threshold parce qu'on ne voulait pas mettre les montants beaucoup plus hauts que de 825 qu'on avait besoin. Les années plus bas qu'on était capable de faire. Donc, est-ce qu'il faudrait qu'on monte à 830 pour être capable de couvrir? Parce que c'est toutes des hypothèses.
Oui, je sais, mais si on revient un petit peu de reculant, originalement, on avait pour les 65 ans et plus, on avait calculé que donner 10 de ces gens-là nous coûterait 54 220. C'est ça? C'est ça le tableau que je lis?
Non.
Non?
C'était seulement le 65 et plus. Donc, le 55
ouais,
est
ça.
seulement.
Ça veut dire les 65 et plus.
Oui.
Le rebate aurait coûté à la ville, si tu veux, 54 220. Si on abolit celui-là,
oui,
puis on va juste pour les maisons qui font, ou les personnes qui font moins que 40 000
oui,
par année, ça nous coûterait 62 000 au lieu de 54 000.
Oui, c'est ça.
Qui ferait une différence de 8 000 $ par année.
Oui.
Mais je suis certain que le 5 overall, c'est un plus gros chiffre que ça.
Il peut rester là. La seule raison pourquoi on a cette question-là, c'est on voulait vraiment se concentrer dans les discussions sur low income. On n'est pas obligé d'abolir le 5 c'est absolument pas.
Mon raisonnement, c'est on voudrait encore encourager les gens à payer
oui,
le plus rapidement possible, s'assurer que c'est payé.
C'est encore 100% possible. La seule raison pourquoi on a dit, si vous voulez transiger vers tout, mettre la concentration là, voici, mais c'est absolument pas obligé d'être aboli du tout.
C'est pas non plus moi seul qui décide, c'était juste ça.
Oui, ça vous appartient, oui.
Pour 8 000, à toute la gang.
Oui, ça vous appartient.
Pour 8 000 $, vous voulez juste voir c'était quoi notre raisonnement de l'enlever, parce que là...
Le raisonnement était simplement que les discussions étaient juste surtout axées vers ceux qui en avaient le plus besoin. Puis, on a pensé mettre le paquet là. Mais ça, c'est pas obligé d'être aboli du tout.
On va écouter ce que mes collègues...
Ouais.
Councillor Knowles, I'm so sorry I bypassed you too. And I said I'd
It's
go
okay.
straight to you. Hold it against me.
That's
It's
all
okay.
fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple of questions on water consumption. 4.5% drop. Is that a result of residential users using less, or is that industrial, a loss industrial-wise? Like, I remember hearing about the hospital, the contract with doing laundry at the hospital. Is that's no longer done in Bathurst? That's outsourced somewhere else? Is that correct?
Yes, it is. But that year, it also was if I remember correctly, I have the chart behind my things, but that year, we also had COVID. So we were not lucky, but we were lucky in the sense that it was transferred to the residential because everybody was at home. So that year is an exceptional year for 2023, and then it kept going afterwards a little bit. But the trend of 4.5, it is kind of the overall what we see per category. Sometimes we have exceptions that make the dot, but overall it's pretty much
So
a
for
4.5.
2023, have we actually decreased by that amount, or
Yes.
we have? Okay, another question, that arrears amount of $836,000 plus, over what time period has that been accumulated?
I could say that we did some exercise with collection, I'm going to say 2019. We were able to decrease it a little bit at that time. The issue is when we did that, we had an employee who had a down in her task who offered, I can do collections to pick up, did collections, but then because it's only temporary, then they can't do it all year long, then we lose the momentum and then it gets higher again. So every time we start to try to address it, it's only a temporary period where we can do it 1 month, 2 months, and then it goes back down. That's the
Okay.
issue.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Councillor Willett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I see we're at the 40,000 rate. As far as I'm concerned, would be a good place to go because you'd hit most of the people that are 65 and older. But I definitely like Councillor Blanc that I'd like to see that 5% stay there. So encourage people to pay their bills ahead of time. So.
Okay. So any other feedback? Anything that you want to move forward? Do you want to move forward with the same resolution? Do you want to make an amendment to the resolution with some of your recommendations? Where are we going with this one? Oh, Deputy Mayor Anderson?
Thank you, Worship. I want to thank you for putting these numbers together. I know it was kind of thrown at you last minute-ish. So I really appreciate the numbers. Personally, myself, I would be comfortable going ahead with the $40,000 range. I feel that for myself, my issue has always been about ensuring that the lower income families in town weren't the ones that were taking the direct hit, basically, with the increase. And I feel that like Councillor Willett said, there's still going to be a lot of people over the age of 65 that's going to be benefiting from this, and it's also going to help the lower aged population as well. So I would be comfortable with that. But I just think, and I questioned bringing this up last week, but I am going to bring it up. I think we need kind of a bit of a history as to why we ended up in the situation that we're in, because we have seen increases over the last few years, some of them quite substantial. And I think it should be mentioned why we ended up in that situation in the first place. I think you started with 2017?
I started in 2018.
2018. So when Ms. Govan started with us in 2018 and she started reviewing all of our 4 budgets that we have, she noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, she noticed especially in this particular budget there were expenses that were charged to this budget that probably shouldn't have been charged to this budget.
Revenues.
Revenue,
Yeah.
sorry. So when she did the corrections, we ended up with a deficit of $800,000. So that's why for 2019 we saw the initial large increase. And we've tried over the years minimizing the impact on the citizens. But it was like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole almost, you know what I mean? Like, we tried everything we could so that our citizens didn't incur the costs that they should have been incurring. Like, realistically, we were paying, we should have been paying a lot more for our water years ago. But because we weren't, and when things got corrected, this is why we ended up in this situation. So for me, that's why I always agreed with the flat rate, because I feel that that will hopefully put an end to the issue that we've been fighting with for the last few years. But like I said, for me, it was just ensuring that, you know, our lower income families in town weren't going to be hit the hardest. Yeah.
Right. Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been giving this a lot of consideration for a long time, and I really appreciate all the work that the administration has done and the Treasury Department to get these figures. They're relevant figures, I believe it. The trouble I have this year, even if we stay with the metered system, which I'm kind of favoring, 13.5%, it sounds alarming. but it's not as much as it's going to be if we go to the flat rate system right away. Ultimately, we're going to get there. We have to get there. I believe that. I really believe that. But for me, it's troublesome for this year, for 2024, that it's going to be substantial for almost 50% of our users. It's going to be much more than 13.5%. It's probably going to be 30, 40% in some cases. That's what troubles me. A year from now, my vote might change. I might look at it differently, and I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and I appreciate everybody's opinion on this, my fellow councilors. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Councillor Branch?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question too around rental units. So when you look, if somebody has, say, 4 unit and there's 1 service connection, how are they billed now? They're just billed on their usage for that 1 meter?
So if you're 4, and that's why the rates decrease. So it goes from 825 to a decreasing rate. That's because exactly what you're asking is the 1 connection that gets divided.
So now, under this new system, how will they be billed? Will they be billed as having 4 units and pay $6.57 per unit, or will they be billed for 1 connection?
It's $6.57 per unit because the $6.57 per unit considers the connection fee that's being diluted in 4. That's why it's not $8.25.
So some rental properties could see considerable increases.
Divided by the number of units. So we've heard comments of multi-units that are 20, 30, that say that they're going to have a big increase. So we looked into it. So the increase that they are getting out, we have to remind that they are divided amongst all of those units. So when we do the calculations, we have some units that really seems a big amount when you look at the big amount, but when you divide it, it equals to about $6 per unit per month. Not all of them, but some of those, that's what it equated to. So we have to take the full amounts of somebody saying it's going to double or triple or whichever amount. We have to consider the number of units they are dividing between all of their tenants as well.
Yeah, but that being said, like if somebody has a 4 unit with 4 single people in there, I mean, their consumption could be minimal now, so they could be one of those people with the $800,000 and $900,000 bill that could be going to $2,628 because it would be 4 times the $657, right?
Per year, yeah.
So they could be realizing like an $1,800 increase for the year. So that would not be a few dollars. That would be significant for some of the people renting. And I would say a lot of people renting are vulnerable too, right? So we have to consider that when we're looking at the flat rate system. Another thing I want to mention too, when you look at the usage or consumption, like it was said at one of the other meetings that there wasn't a large difference in consumption between Beresford, which is unmetered, and Bathurst, which is metered, but that's not what the numbers say. When you look at it, there is a sizable difference when you look at how much water is consumed per connection. So I guess I just wanted to put that out there too. That, you know, if that holds true, we will see sizable increases in consumption down the road.
Yeah, Beresford has not increased. They have a higher consumption than Bathurst, but they haven't had many changes since 2021, 2022, and 2023 in their consumption.
No, but if you look at the units, and I'm not sure what units are used in the, you know, it just says consumption. And I mean, the average unit's 65.19 in Beresford, and the average consumption is 38.27 in Bathurst. So there's a sizable difference. So metering does make a big difference in consumption. At least that's what those numbers dictate.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. All right, Councillor Hondas, and then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was elected in 2016 with Deputy Mayor Anderson, and when we got into this and we noticed that big fluctuation of the $800,000, it wasn't fun to try to get a hold of that. And over the last couple of years, we've upped our budget by 42%, and we're going to go another 13.5% this year, maybe another 15% next year. We never know where it says. I'd hate for us to wait on this. This is a good project. It's a good proposal. They did a lot of hard work. you know, if we don't do it now, the 825 might become 950 next year, and we're going to be here again. Like Councillor Anderson said, it's like putting a plaster over a bullet hole. But, you know, it's time for us to stop the bleeding. I think this is the way to go, my personal opinion. You've done too good hard work not to be commended on it, Mrs. Gauvin. So, but I'd hate to see us wait another year, and then all these numbers are going to go. This is a good proposal. With the changes that we've made, I think everybody's going to benefit, and maybe an increase of a little bit, but I think we're going to be safe. And, you know, nobody's going to have to worry about leakage. It's not the city's responsibility to look at if your house is leaking, your washroom is leaking. You have to own up to your own and make sure everything's fine. But, you know, if you're paying X amount of dollars and you're all of a sudden you're hit with an $800 bill because something's leaking, first thing you say, well, it's not me, it's the city, right? But if it's your washroom that's leaking, that's an extra $500 that you have to come up with. So this will eliminate that. And I think we've taken everything into consideration that we could. I'm glad we brought it back up. Democracy says we're allowed to challenge things, and that's what we did. We debated it, we had some changes, and I think it's a fair for everybody with the changes that we're willing to make. And I agree with that Councillor LeBlanc and Councillor Willett, that 5%, if it's paid before a certain date, would be an extra bonus to everybody. And then, but I think it's a fair project, and I think it needs to be done now, guys.
Deputy Mayor Anderson?
I just have a question, thank you. I just have a question on what Councillor Branch was referring to with the $1,800 for a 4-unit building. Can you just kind of clarify that, and you tell me if he's right or not?
What I was getting at, now if they're billed for one service connection, it would be entirely possible they'd be one of these clients that falls in the average, you know, $800 to $1,000 water bill, right? Water and sewer bill. So now when we go to this new system, it would be 4 units by $657 a unit, which would come out to $2,628 per year. So they'd be realizing approximately $1,800 increase in water and sewer. So when you break that down per unit, you're approaching $40 a unit per month. So again, like, we're worried about vulnerable people. There are vulnerable people that are renting. And I mean, landlords are going to pass these costs on, right? It's like everything else in the supply chain. It gets passed on to the end user. That's why I was kind of glad a few meetings ago when Councillor Legacy mentioned, like, we're moving too fast on this. Maybe we should put this on hold and study it a little more, right? Being new to council, I didn't want to bring that up myself because I thought there could have been additional information that I wasn't aware of. But the more we get into this, the more I think that is the best approach to take, to study this more.
So the apartments unit for 4 unit, they would pay $54.75 per month for that unit. You have to look at the per month. Who can pay $54.75 for water and sewer at your door per month? Which municipality and which city? $54.75. That you can have that spent in 2 weeks just with coffee at Tim Hortons. To me, that is such a wonderful deal at $54.75. Did you have any other questions, Deputy Mayor Anderson?
Well, I just did a quick calculation. I'm basing it on myself. Am I low income? No, I'm not low income. But I'm just looking at, for example, my water bill. Somebody that lives alone uses very little water. I'm at $54 a month. If I do the monthly calculation, my bill is $162-ish every 3 months. So that's $54 a month that I pay using bare minimum water. So I'm trying to wrap my head around how there's going to be that much of an increase, especially if the fees are like for a four unit building, for example, if the fees are what, $657? It'd be roughly around there, yeah.
Would be 657 times 4. where now they could be in the area of $1,000, right? So they're going to see, and like I said, they could see an $1,800 increase divided among 4 units
Because now
throughout
it's
the
just
year,
the one,
right?
now it's just going through the 1 meter as opposed to,
Exactly.
Right.
And
Okay,
like I
I'm
say,
following
for
you.
some people, $40 a month may seem insignificant, right? But for a vulnerable person,
Well, that's what I've been
$40 a
arguing.
month could be the difference between going to the grocery store, right?
no, I understand that. That's been my argument for 6 weeks.
All right. Did you want to add something, Mr. Pettigrew?
Yeah, just to follow up and just to clarify, I just want to clarify, you said $800, I'm just trying to get some numbers for Ms. Govan here. You assume that it would be $800 per year for a 4-unit facility?
I'm not assuming anything, I'm just saying that based on.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, you're good.
Thank you.
I'm not assuming anything, I'm just saying based on one service connection now, just charging for usage, right? I mean,
Right, so
we
the
would-
typical usage for a household would be on average of $54 per month. So that's 650 per year on a single household. The average use is not, based on an 800 to 1,000, is not 250, 200 to 250 per client is very little, minimal. I don't know how much usage you would have.
Mr. Abernathy, if you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just the numbers at a 4-unit for $900 a year is 26 liters a day per unit. So you flush your toilet twice, right? So that would be extremely low usage.
You flush
the
your
a-
toilet twice per day?
Yeah.
No
the a-
shower, no
the
nothing?
average usage for a Canadian household is 145 liters per person. The average for the whole household is 350-ish, so it's 2.1, whatever. But it's around 140, 145 per person is the average. So, you know, certainly people could use less than that, there's no doubt. But, you know, that's very low. Just wanted to mention that.
Okay. You still have the mic, if you want to add, Councilor Branch, you good?
no, that's fair, I'm just pointing out, like I
Yep.
say, I'm just pointing out,
Yep.
and again, like Councillor Anderson lives by herself,
Mm-hmm.
which I get, but I mean, I'm sure she does laundry and stuff like that. Not everybody in an apartment would have a washer dryer, so there would be different usage patterns there too, right? So, again, just pointing out that whatever cost we put out there are gonna be passed on.
Well, I can tell you, since the pandemic, and I'm not saying anything that you guys don't already know, landlord has increased rent by $400, $300, and it's not because of the water or any other thing. You have people coming in buying an apartment building, and I know there's, you know, a lady I've known all her life, her daughter went to school, my daughter, and she lives in, I may as well say it, she lives in a basement apartment, have barely big enough windows. She was paying $750 for the longest time, and it went up $400 with no explanation whatsoever. So to me, it's just going to be another excuse, because let me tell you, some of them are making quite a bit of money off of the back of these people that are renting. Okay, so where do we go from here? I'm going to ask the question again. Are we voting on the second reading, or is there a motion on the table to amend with some of the changes that you're recommending? Councillor Willett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to go with the $40,000 and keep the 5%.
All right, can I have, okay, Conseiller Leblanc? Okay, so you have it? Okay. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is we're gonna read that resolution, and then we're gonna go for someone for the vote, right? Because we've amended, so I'll get someone to motion and approve and then vote after this amendment. Okay, all right. I gotta give you the mic. I'd be so glad with this new technology, I'm telling you, I spend my time being IT in the back of here.
So just before we go to the final resolution for this, so we're looking to do the removal of rebate for all owners age 65 or over.
Yeah.
I understand it correctly. And we are keeping the yearly rebate for the 5% if you pay. Okay. And it'll be lower than 40,000 for the new rebate.
$39.99.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that being said, that bylaw 2024-01 entitled "A Bylaw Respecting Water and Sewer Services and Charges in the City of Bathurst" be amended as follows. The removal of rebates for all owners age 65 or over in the amount of 10% per year, and the addition of a rebate for homeowners currently residing in the said home who have an annual income lower than $39,999.
All right, so may I have someone to move? Councillor Willett, seconder, Conseiller Leblanc. So I'm going to go to the question, and please raise your card for aye or nay. So everybody in favor, signify by saying aye. Raise your yellow card. Okay. Against, raise your yellow card. Okay, motion carried. Did you get them all, that I didn't go too fast?
We're good.
Okay. All right, we move on. Draft resolution.
We need to read the final.
Oh, yes, we have
Yeah.
to read the final. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
So the final resolution for this item, that bylaw 2024-01 entitled "The Bylaw Respecting Water and Sewer Services and Charges in the City of Bathurst" be read for the second time by title as amended.
All right, so may I have a mover? Seconder, Hondas. Okay. Again, all those in favor signify by saying aye by raising your yellow card. Against, raising your yellow card. Motion carried. We're good? Draft resolution, tourism accommodation levy fund. Mr. Wilbur, did you want to chat here, or is it you, Mr. Pettigrew, that's going to be taking the mic?
Mr. Wilbur answering this, of course.
All right. Okay, Mr. Wilbur, you're good to go.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you've read in your agenda packets, I'd like to make a request for decision to disperse $30,000 from the 2023 Tourism Accommodation Levy in regards to some necessary repairs at the Promenade Waterfront. As you well know, the Promenade Waterfront is a well-used destination by both citizens and visitors alike. It's used for special events, and we have a number of vendors down there as well. And much of the infrastructure at this site has unfortunately become in a state of disrepair. And upon doing a fairly thorough assessment of the site and taking into consideration what we have for available funds in 2023, we would like to request that we use the $30,000 primarily for this year to do some replacements of some exterior doors at some of the different buildings at the waterfront. They are beyond repair at this stage. And in addition to the full replacement, many of the access doors at the waterfront aren't currently considered wheelchair accessible at 34 inches. So as part of this project, we would also be increasing the sizing of these doorways to 36 inches, which would in turn make some of these spaces at the waterfront now wheelchair accessible.
All right. Do we have any questions to Brian? No? So we had a little bit of money left at the year end, and I was talking about wanting to do fireworks, and then we got talking, Mr. Wilbur and I, and then he says, our waterfront is in disrepair. So instead of throwing money in the air and smoke, I think it's a very good investment. The money is there. We've got till the end of the year anyway, and he has everything lined up, if council agrees. So yes? All right. There you go, because it's true. Some of the doors are rotten. So, and it is quite a touristic area in the summer. It's a very popular place. Yeah, there's a resolution. So we're going to go to the resolution. Oh, Councillor Willett has a question.
Go ahead with the resolution, Madam Mayor. I got something I want to point out after.
Afterwards? Okay. So, Ms. Parker?
That members of council approve a grant of $30,000 for the infrastructure repairs and upgrades at La Promenade waterfront site from the tourism accommodation levy collected.
Perfect. May I have a mover? Councillor Burnett, seconder, Councillor Knowles. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. That was an easy one. Councillor Willett, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I was questioned by a few residents this week about the events that's going on in town are not on our website anymore, so if we could fix that problem. We got an events coordinator, so I don't know if he's got access to our website to put those on, but, or like even like the parade and that, the Christmas parade and that weren't on our website, so.
It has to be on our website. Not everybody goes on Facebook, and not
Yeah.
everybody has Facebook. These things need to be on the website. Mr. Pettigrew, can we make sure this is fixed?
Worship, we will follow up and make sure we make some changes there.
Yeah, because we have other activities that could be happening within the region, and we absolutely, it needs to be on our website. And if it means that we have to give access to other employees to be able to do those work and not depend only on one person, we need to do those. Perfect, thank you. I want to jump there, and I'm going to ask, because I heard echo at the Christmas parade, which was a huge success. It was beautiful. I think this is the most attendant that they had, and they had like 75 like vehicles or floaters that were in the parade. And the city of Bathurst did a beautiful float, so it was really nice. Ryan, did I hear correctly that where the waterfront is under that little amphitheater thing, are they going to try to put an ice there? I've been hearing echo, so I don't know if I should be talking about it, asking. Yeah, no? Is it just a rumor? Or?
I can disclose that operationally we are looking at it.
Okay.
However, I don't believe we're at a point yet where we can commit that
Okay.
to the members of the public, but it is something we are taking a look at as a possibility.
Okay, you're looking at it.
Yes.
All right, okay. Councillor Hondas?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to Mr. Wilbur. There was echoes or rumors that downtown music at the waterfront was not going to happen next year. Is there any truth to that, or a lot of people go there to enjoy themselves on the, so?
Certainly not something that I am aware of. I can say that over the long term, we are looking at doing a bit of a strategic review for the Promenade Waterfront, just to make sure that what events, what offerings we're providing in that space make the most sense for both residents and for tourists.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
And then, because a lot of people enjoy that, a lot of older people go in, have a good time, listen to whoever's there, and I just hate to see it not be there. We don't have any contingency, so it'd be nice, you know, to make sure that we keep us informed on that, please.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we're going to the adjournment of the meeting. We need to read it first. Oh, you're not on. Okay. Yeah.
That the special public meeting be adjourned at 7:33 p.m.
All right, Councillor Honda, seconded by Councillor Burnett. All right. Have a great evening, everybody.